Thanks. Okay, so I think about half of you were here last time I came and talked, which was when? March, I think? Around that kind of time?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously everyone's in the new school year now. But like Miss Betts said, I'm here to talk about employment and that sort of thing. It's something that I think a lot of groups that we speak to, in particular, within the charity, want to talk about a lot. I think it's one of the things that just generally becomes, I don't know, I guess it's ingrained in what you teach in the school and kind of the outlook from the students. So just by show of hands, who wants to get a job when they live here, or wants to work, or wants to do something? So that's damn near everyone, I think. Okay. I might come around in a bit and ask a couple of people why and what they want to do. And we're going to have to do some lists as well. Have you got any paper to do? Have you got any paper for No, for everybody, yeah. Paper and pens, so that might be a bit of a challenge. You're going to have to write 3 lists, so you won't take long, I promise. Usually what I talk about is, I talk about me, first of all. So, anyone want to guess how old I am? Okay.
60.
How old?
60.
60? You think I'm 60? I'm not 60. I'm sure not 60. Okay, go on. 38? Wow, right, that's terrible. One more. If anyone goes too high. 28. Right, okay, I'll take your answer. 27. That's close. I'm 27. I'm not too far away. So you were close. But I think you were here last time, so I'm pretty sure you were here last time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you probably knew. Okay, so that means 11 years ago I left school. That's about right, 2006 I left school. I got 3 GCSEs in total. I didn't pass maths, I didn't pass English, and I had this really, really nice head teacher that told me that I'd be lucky if I ever got a job as a bin man. So that was really nice of him to say. Filled me with loads of confidence about how I was going to go and make a living and grow up and do all that kind of thing. So I get to talk about that quite a lot with all the young people that we work with. And I give talks like this maybe 10 or 15, maybe 20 times a year to different groups. And I think that's probably the best part. There's a lot of potential in people who don't do well at school. I did a video about it specifically on our social media pages, specifically on GCSE Results Day, which was a couple of weeks ago. And that's all about those people who come out of school with no GCSEs or very poor GCSEs like me, and they've been told all the way through that system that that's the end. That means that they can't get a job, they're not going to be successful. But that's not true. And it's not true because it didn't happen to me. It's also not true because all the businesses that we work with within the charity, they're mostly run by people who were exactly the same as me, who didn't do well at school. You know, education wasn't for them, but it doesn't mean they're incapable of doing a job. It doesn't mean they're incapable of a career. It just means that education wasn't right. Okay, so what we're going to do, and we talked about this with Miss Betts in particular, we're going to take, and this is why you're going to write some lists. We're actually going to take groups of you, or maybe all of you in one big group, at least once, to go and see some businesses around here. Not just here, but in Teesside generally. So we might go to Middlesbrough, we might go to Hartlepool, just to go and see some of those businesses. Mainly because you probably don't know they exist. I think all the lads probably know about joiners, bricklayers, welders, right? Anyone here not thought about that career? Any of the girls probably thought about teaching, for example, or something in the care sector. That tends to be the theme, and that's fine. They're all great jobs. You can make good money doing them, you know, and you can do really well with those things. But what we find is we take young people to go and see different types of businesses, and they get interested in those instead. So just to illustrate an example which happened with a group we worked with last year from Hartlepool, there was one individual, and right at the start he wrote a list like you're going to write in a bit. And on that list he wrote one job that he wanted to do. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. He was desperate to be a sports journalist. So we said, fine, that's cool. If you know what you want to do, and you know why you want to do it and all that kind of thing, then let's go. So we introduced him to a sports journalist. He got to find out what it was all about. He got to ask him loads of questions. I asked him some questions as well. He was fixed on that. We took him to see 5 or 6 other businesses. He's still fixed on being a sports journalist. Fantastic. We took him to go and see a business in Hartlepool called Heart Biologicals, which most people won't have heard of. They're a super high-tech business that basically messes with people's blood to help cure diseases. We had a tour of the laboratories around the back. Everything's pristine white. It's super well grown. Everyone's so respectful of the guy that owns it. He took us round as well. He only generally employs people from the town. He doesn't necessarily employ uni graduates. He invests in his staff to get them degrees once they've become staff members. It's a really cool business. That young man decided to go and do 2 weeks work experience there during his summer holidays. And that's probably the career he's going to follow now. That's because he didn't know that business existed. He didn't know he was interested because he hadn't seen it before. Just like, has anyone been to see a business? Anyone worked in a business? Anyone done any work experience out of this group? Yeah, I think I remember you from last time. Yeah, and you've probably got your list still. So there's a couple, but I think anyone that wasn't here last time, I guess, probably hasn't done any, right? No. And you don't necessarily have to go and do work experience. The visits we take you on might only be an hour long. You'll get to meet the guy that owns a business, or the woman that owns a business. You'll get to have a walk around, see what they do, ask some questions. Usually they put on some food and that kind of thing. It's only an hour. You get back on the bus and you go. And then if you don't like it, you never have to go back. And if you do like it, then we can arrange something specific, or Respect can arrange something specific, or at least it gives you some kind of idea of where you want to go. Okay? So those 3 lists, I'm gonna ask you to write 3 lists. Okay, so start thinking about them now. The first one is what jobs you want to do right now when you get older, right? And it's fine if you put all those things on. If you're one of the lads and you want to write joiner, bricklayer, welder, then fine, write that down. That's what you want to do, fine. And what we'll try and do is, if there's enough of them, we'll make sure you see one of those businesses. So you get to understand that. Secondly, you're going to write down a list of things that you like doing outside of school. Sorry about that. Write down a list of things that you like doing outside school. So that could be football. If you're one of the lads, it might be chasing girls. It doesn't matter what it is. Whatever you want to write, I want to know it. I'll explain at the end why those 2 things are important to put together. Third, I want you to tell me on the list about the things that you want from life. So if you want a Ferrari, write a Ferrari. If you want a big house, if you want a swimming pool, if you want to travel, all those things. Has anyone written that list? Don't put your hand if you were here last time, that's cheating. Anyone written that list before that wasn't here last time? No one. So write that down, it gives you a bit of an idea. And that list can change. That doesn't mean that's it for the rest of your life. That's it. You can change it as you go along. Okay? The other thing we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit, and we'll probably come back and do it specifically in another session, because you'll see a lot of me over the next 12 months. Specifically about CVs. I know you do some CV stuff here, I think. Alex, is that right?
Yeah.
You do some CV stuff here, but one of the things that I've experienced a lot is when people send me CVs, it's usually around this kind of time, in the summer, or just after the summer, where anyone that's left school or left college is looking for a job, or a work experience, or apprenticeship, or something like that. All the CVs are always the same. They always look the same. They're always filled with the same information. The only thing that's different about them generally is the grades. And you don't really get a good sense of who that person is from that CV. You don't know if they're going to be good, if they're going to turn up on time, or wear the right clothes, or say the right things. They might be a terrible employee, but they might get great grades. So it's important that your CV reflects who you are as well, not just what you can do and those kinds of things. I've got a friend who he was a 4-time world kickboxing champion by the time he was 18. So he'd flown all over the world, he beat people from all different kinds of countries. He was really, really good. But when he came to do his first CV, he didn't put it on. He didn't say that he was a 4-time world kickboxing champion. And I don't know why he didn't. He never really told me why. But that's so, for me, if he was trying to get a job with me, I'm so much more interested in him. Because you don't just become a 4-time world kickboxing champion by mistake. It's hard work, dedication, training, sacrifice. There's a whole load of things. That tells me a lot about him as a human. I don't care what his grades are. I really don't. And that's the whole purpose of today, really, is so you can look at what you can do and how you can do it and how you're going to get there. And the visits we're going to take you on, you'll get to see. You get to speak to some of these business leaders. He'll tell you the same thing. they didn't get great grades, they weren't unbelievably academic. That doesn't mean that you don't have to work at school, because you have to work at school. The thing you have to remember is it's easier if you've got good grades. If it isn't, it's not the end. If you don't get good grades, that's not the end. It doesn't mean it's going to be impossible for you to go on to work. It just means you might have to go and do it a different way. You might have to go and do work experience. You might have to work for free for a week or a month. Not for very long, but you might have to do it for nothing. But then you can get in and work hard. And a lot of these people you're going to meet that run these businesses, who speak to young people like you, for us, every year, will tell you the same thing. They much prefer a hard-working, conscientious type individual than someone who just got straight A's and doesn't have anything really else to show for it. So if you think that's you, if you think you can do that, then we can help you do that in the industry or in the business or in the sector that you're interested in.
We've already had a few people, haven't we, successful because they've volunteered, people that have gone to James Cook as therapeutic volunteers. And because they've gone and volunteered and worked, improved themselves and learned those skills, they've gone on to get a supported internship, which in place would lead to an apprenticeship. So it's finding routes through and getting the experience as well.
Exactly. Just from my personal experience as well, I didn't do well with GCSEs, which means I didn't go to college, which means I didn't go to university. So I started working straight away, mainly because I didn't have a choice. But by the time everyone I went to school with had finished their college and university, I'd already been working for 5 or 6 years. I'd made loads of money, I had a car, I'd done all that stuff, I'd travelled, I'd done loads of things, so I was already way ahead of those guys. And actually now, even 11 years on, I'm still further ahead than they are, because they're still getting their second and third job and they're still climbing the ladder. Whereas I've climbed the ladder and I run my own businesses. I do what I want to do. I'm 10 years into an industry and they're 2 years into an industry. It makes a big difference, I think. So, has anyone got any questions about any of that?
What was the third list?
What have you got written down? Jobs you like to do, things you enjoy outside of school, and things you want out of life. Yeah. And that could be, it doesn't have to be something you can, hold. It doesn't have to be a car, that could be you might want a wife or a husband or any of those kinds of things. Just have an idea about what it is. And I'll show you how all of those three things link together. But the first two, I think, are the most important, to link those two together. And I'll tell you something about that now, actually, is that when the generation before yours and the generation before that, when they were young, they didn't have a choice. They didn't have the internet. They couldn't just do whatever they wanted. We just had a world war. Everyone had to get a job. There wasn't much stuff. I guess that probably, if you ask someone, maybe some people in the room might remember, we had rolling blackouts. It wasn't just a case of just turning up places and the lights would turn on like it is now. They had to go and get jobs, and I think work was it was almost like a punishment then. You got a job, it didn't matter if you liked it, you just did it. And that's what put food on the table, paid for your house, and that was it. Now, we've got this situation where we've got the internet and we can all do stuff we want to do, and the trick is putting those two things together. So if you can find something that you like to do and match that up with your job, you can make money doing stuff that doesn't really feel like work. It's kind of like this for me. I don't get paid to do this. I volunteer to do this. I run businesses. I don't sleep very often because I've got a lot of stuff to do, but I choose to take time out of my schedule to come and do this for no money because I like doing this. So I'm always smiling when I'm doing this. So if you can do that, if you turn up to work and smile every day, you've won. And it doesn't really feel like work. I promise you it doesn't. This doesn't feel like work to me. The phone call I had on the way here that took me half an hour, that felt like work. That was difficult. That was uncomfortable. I had to talk about things I didn't want to talk about. I had to tell someone to do something that they didn't want to do. I don't have to do that here. I just get to enjoy this. So that's important. So, is everyone ready to write some lists? Yeah? Because we've only got really till 12:15. So if we get started on the list now, it's quite important we can round it up. Anyone got any questions before we start? No? Cool. Thanks for doing that. Appreciate it.